This is the Leopard Gallop electric scooter, and what struck me right away is how it turns a regular commute into a quick, low-effort ride without beating me up over rough patches. I get power when I need it, comfort when I want it, and I do not arrive sweaty or tense. I would put this in the adult commuter category with enough muscle for weekend rides. It suits someone who wants a scooter that can actually handle hills, has real brakes, and keeps comfort in check with a seat you can remove whenever you want a standing ride. If you want something flimsy and ultra-light for 1 or 2 mile hops, this is not it. If you want a dependable daily machine that feels stable and confident, this is the lane. The design looks clean, but what matters to me is how it feels in hand and underfoot. The frame feels rigid with no creaks, and the deck is wide enough that I can stand with a natural stance. The removable seat mounts on a thin-looking metal support that feels sturdier than it looks. It has a little give when I hit bumps, which keeps my lower back happier on longer rides. The 10-inch off-road style tires are chunky enough to soak up smaller cracks and seams, and together with front and rear shocks, the scooter does not slap me around on broken pavement. The yellow shocks are not just for show. They actually do work. Handlebar grips feel comfortable and slightly tacky, so my hands do not slip when I sweat. The controls make sense. Rear brake on the left, front brake on the right, throttle where my thumb naturally rests, and simple buttons for the headlight, turn signals, and horn. I like the large display because I can glance down for speed and riding mode without squinting. It does pick up a bit of glare in harsh sunlight, but I can still read it. There is a little hook on the stem for a bag, and I honestly use it more than I expected. It keeps a grocery bag from swinging into the front wheel and saves me from backpack sweat. The charging port sits in the middle of the deck and has a snug cover. I do not have to fish around for it, and the cover keeps grit out. The kickstand flicks down easily with the heel of my shoe and feels stable enough to hold the scooter even on slightly uneven ground. The handlebar height is adjustable, which I appreciate when I switch between seated and standing riding. Small detail, big difference. Setup took me less than 10 minutes. The scooter arrived well packed and most of the work was done. I installed the seat, attached the handlebar, and tightened a few bolts with the included multi-tool. The box also had a simple air pump, a user manual, the charger, and 2 keys for the ignition. The 2 keys sound like a small thing, but I keep one on my main key ring and stash the spare in a drawer. Charging from low to full takes around 6 to 7 hours with the included charger, which means I plug it in overnight. That is standard for this class, but it is something to plan around. On the road, the first surprise was the motor. The 1,000-watt brushless motor feels eager. In level 3 mode, throttle response is quick and the scooter pulls strongly from a standstill. In level 2, the takeoff is smoother and better for crowded paths. Level 1 caps the top speed around 10 miles per hour and is great for learning or riding on shared sidewalks where you want to be polite. I spend most of my time in level 2 because it balances speed and control. Then I bump to level 3 for long stretches or hills. Top speed is around 32 miles per hour, which I only touch on clear, straight sections with good visibility. Brakes are strong enough that I feel in control. The rear engages first on the left lever with a predictable bite, and the front on the right adds stopping power. A 2-finger pull is usually enough, and modulation feels natural once I adjust it to the lever feel. Comfort is a big deal for me, and this scooter holds up. Front and rear shocks soften the chatter of rough asphalt, and the seat has its own shock that takes the edge off the sharper hits. The 10-inch tires roll over small potholes and sidewalk seams without that jarring thump that sends a shock through my knees. Standing, the deck gives me enough room to shift my weight. Seated, my posture is neutral. The adjustable handlebar height lets me avoid hunching or reaching. I still slow down for big bumps and I do not treat it like a dirt bike, but for city streets and park paths, it is genuinely comfortable. Real range depends on how I ride, my weight, and terrain, just like with any scooter. The 48-volt battery is rated for up to 52 miles. That is the best case scenario. My time with it looks like this. In mostly level 2 mode, with a few bursts of level 3, on mixed streets with a couple of medium hills, I finish a round trip of around 12 to 15 miles with more than half a charge left. If I keep it conservative and stay in level 2, I can do a week of short daily rides without plugging in. On a longer Saturday ride, pushing speeds and climbing more, the battery drains faster, but I still do not feel range anxiety on anything under 20 to 25 miles. The important part is I do not have to babysit the battery or watch the percentage tick down anxiously. I do keep an eye on the display to switch down a mode before steep hills when I want to conserve juice. I ran a few scenarios to get a feel for the limits. A neighborhood hill that usually makes smaller scooters crawl barely slows this one down in level 3. It is not a rocket ship, but it holds a confident pace and never feels like it is straining. On a gravel path in a local park, the off-road style tires and suspension keep the ride controlled, though I ease off the throttle to keep traction. On cracked city streets with patchwork repairs, the combination of shocks and seat absorber saves my back, though sharp curbs still require a little hop or a slow roll. At night, the headlight is bright enough to see the road ahead, and the turn signal lights are visible to cars. The horn is loud enough to alert distracted pedestrians, but I still slow down and pass gently. With a grocery run, I hang a small bag on the hook and it stays out of the wheel and away from my knees. That hook sounds minor, but it saves me often. One specific week, I used it for my commute and errands. Morning ride to the office, roughly 6 miles on flat and mildly hilly streets, stop at a store on the way home, and a couple of short trips to grab coffee or meet a friend. I started Monday with a full charge, rode in level 2 most of the time, kicked up to level 3 for a longer boulevard, and rode seated for the rougher sections. By Thursday evening, the battery indicator was still healthy. I plugged it in overnight once that week and forgot about it. That is the rhythm I want from a commuter scooter. Charge while I sleep, ride without thinking about it. There are a few small quirks. In level 3, the initial throttle hit is pretty eager. That makes it fun, but it can be a little jumpy in tight areas. Level 2 smooths that out, so I switch down in crowded spots. The big display is easy to read, but in direct noon sun it reflects a bit. Tilting the handlebar angle helped for me. The included air pump is a nice touch for emergencies, though it is more of a backup than a daily tool. The keys add a nice basic layer of security, but it is still a scooter. I lock it when I leave it outside. The brakes bed in over the first rides, so doing a few gentle stops early helps them feel more consistent. None of these are deal breakers, just things I picked up through real use. A few features genuinely make daily life better. The large display and clear riding modes keep me focused on the road instead of fiddling with settings. The adjustable handlebar height means one scooter fits my standing rides and my seated rides without compromise. The shock on the seat softens long commutes and keeps fatigue down. The bag hook becomes part of my routine. The covered charging port in the middle of the deck is easy to reach and stays clean. And having turn signals and a horn integrated is just safer for city riding. If you want a scooter that feels like a real transportation tool, not a toy, this is the one I would point you toward. It is powerful enough to handle hills and longer rides, comfortable enough for daily use thanks to real suspension and a decent seat, and simple to live with. Riders who want the lightest possible setup for hauling up multiple flights of stairs may find it a bit much to carry, and speed junkies who only care about top end might want something more extreme. For everyone who wants a strong motor, a smooth ride, thoughtful controls, and range you can trust, the Leopard Gallop electric scooter earns a spot in the short list. I will leave all the information about the Leopard Gallop electric scooter in the comments. I hope to see you again in the following videos.